Hey, Doc John here, and I am the Entrepreneurship. Welcome to the channel. I have an awesome guest today. I'm really looking forward to introducing all of you to Max Mihro, the EntrepreNerd. Max, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, yeah.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. The EntrepreNerd meets the Entreprofessor, or vice versa. That's great. Well, good. Well, welcome. I am really excited to share some of the things that you and I have worked on with those that are viewing my channel, because you've brought some really interesting things into both my live classroom situations and also starting to work on some new things like the simulator that you're working on. So looking forward to sharing that with everyone. But before we dive into all that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and some of the things you're working on?
Yeah, totally. So, like you said, the name's Max, EntrepreNerd. That's my kind of brand. EntrepreNerd is basically a live show where every week, I actually just got off an episode like half an hour ago. Every week on Wednesdays, I go and we try to build a miniature startup on a live stream in like 90 minutes. Just to solve some problem in the world, just to showcase prototyping and early marketing, and overall just mainly to democratize as much as we can the process of small form entrepreneurship. So kids can my goal is to like make it fun, right? I want students to be like building stuff on the weekends just as like a hobby thing, right? Because that's what I do. When I have a new idea, I'm like, you know what? Let's throw it together.
Yeah.
I focus on no code. I don't code anything myself. So I'm usually able to build little prototypes of apps, websites, whatever else, mostly digital, pretty quickly. And that's the kind of shtick. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I think one thing that's always struck me is you kind of demystified entrepreneurship. I mean, it's not like it takes weeks, months, years to create a business. You're often doing it in a 90-minute live stream, right? I mean, give us some examples. Like, just describe a few of the live streams that are just kind of the way you've approached it.
Yeah, totally. So actually today, the one that I was building today was actually usually we get like 75% of the way through the prototype on the show. We'll usually there's be like 25% left that we just haven't finished. But we basically finished the prototype completely on the show today, and I'm really happy about it. What we came up with, or I just had an idea, in the no-code space, there's a lot of these tools that help you build, let's think of website tools, right?
Yeah.
Tons of website tools out there. Squarespace, Wix, WordPress, Webflow. I use a little tool called Card. There's literally 70 of these that I have a list of, right?
Yeah.
For landing pages and websites, and all of them have templates, right? A lot of them have base templates that they start with just to help people get started building their own little thing. Those templates often overlap. I've seen a lot of for an e-commerce store. I've seen a lot of them for a job board or a restaurant website, right? A lot of the templates are very similar, but they're all different because they were built differently, but they're for the same purpose. So my theory was, if I create a little site where I can search all of the templates across all different tools, anytime I want to build something new, like a restaurant app, I can go to this little page, type in restaurant app, and it'll show me all the different restaurant app templates that I can use to really quickly just whip something up. So I find the template I want,
Nice.
And I just go with that tool, right? That's my theory. I think it'll be helpful for the no-code space. Mainly it's solving my own personal problem because I build a lot of stuff and I want to find the templates quickly.
Yeah.
But I was able to completely throw up the website. I'm actually going to check if it's ready. It was, what is it? Beta.co. Is it up yet? No, it's not up yet.
Okay.
So it's almost up. But beta.co, B-E-Y-T-A, like a planned beta.
Okay, nice.
.co, and it's up, it's available, it's done. We finished it in 90 minutes, and I'm really happy with it. So it's
nice.
A good example.
Well, and that's interesting. So you've identified a kind of a unique problem that would be something that a lot of individuals in that same category could be. Entrepreneurs who want to kind of create no-code tools, or anybody who's just doing that, kind of trying to create something that there's already templates out there, and then it sort of goes out and finds those, almost like a crawler. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, I'm probably going to be populating it most myself, just on a little back-end database to start. But then there's also a little submit form where people can crowdsource different ideas, crowdsource different templates. So it's just a little niche problem that I think I'm having, and I'm hoping other people are having. It takes me 90 minutes to build it. I may as well, right?
Nice.
So, yeah,
interesting.
Very excited about it.
Yeah. Now, so it seems like you once you create an idea like that, you also think in terms of how do you get traction? How do you monetize? Have you started to think about how some of the things you might do along those lines?
Yeah, totally. So usually there's always a monetization, or not usually there's always. Usually there's a really solid monetization strategy behind the concept if it becomes popular, right? In this case, this is a place where everybody goes. I would probably affiliate link every single one of the templates, or create a little subsection of the store where I can get deals and discount codes for existing templates that are paid, and just create like a little marketplace for these templates, right? So
Nice.
if somebody clicks on the free template, they use it, I get an affiliate link if they end up paying for the tool, or I get affiliate sales, or I can go to all these different companies that have these templates and say, hey, I have a big place where I showcase templates. I would love to find some discount codes. I would love to get some discount codes for you so I can sell your templates better, right?
Yeah.
And then I would make affiliate sales on that as well. So it's probably an affiliate play.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like a paid newsletter setup that I could do for content. But yeah, mainly going to be affiliate stuff.
Nice. Excellent. So what are some of your favorite live builds? I know, how long have you been doing it? Has it been a couple years, a year?
It's been a year and a half since I've started the live show. Well, actually, about a year and a half.
Okay.
And I've only been doing consistent live builds for about 7 months so far. The first little live build we did was a virtual co-working space on Minecraft, kind of as a joke.
Nice.
And we actually got traction on it. It was really great. And then probably my favorite one right now is the simulation that we're talking about. This is my first real software product, or attempt at one. The idea is, the theoretical problem is professors of marketing or entrepreneurship or business that want to teach their kids, their students, PPC, pay-per-click advertising, so like running a Facebook ad. It's difficult for them to do that.
Yeah.
Because I had an experience in my marketing class back in college where I had to pay like $50 to YouTube to run a YouTube ad, right? Because they wanted us to run an actual ad in class, which is great. That's the best way to learn running ads.
Yeah.
We had to pay $50 to YouTube to make that happen, get some data back, yay. Stuff went wrong with our ad, it didn't get approved. It was just this whole big thing. If there's like $50 per teams and per team, and there's like 10 or 20 teams or 10 or 20 individuals, that's like $500 to $1,000 per class, like the university is paying. And when students pay money in class, they have to be reimbursed. And that reimbursement process, from what I saw, was a huge pain in the butt for the university, because just getting money to the right places is just annoying. So my theory is, based on all three of those, nothing goes wrong. You don't have to pay any money, and you still get the same level of education about how to run ads if I just create a simulated version of running PPC ads, right? That's the theory. Building a simulation right now. Just a very simple little web app to teach students how to do ads. Yeah, that's the theory.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and what I like about it is it's such a focused simulation. Like it's really zeroing in on a particular skill. Which it takes some practice, and if you're just going out and doing it on YouTube, it's one where you have to pay for those ads, and if you're not really monetizing that in any way, that just becomes costly, and at the same time learning principles there. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the hope. We'll see if it's big enough that I can sell it, but
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to testing it out sometime soon. So that's great. That's good.
Super hype.
So let's talk a little bit about, for everyone who's just tuning in, Max came in and joined a couple of my classes. They were live in-person classes, but we actually went virtual for the days. Even though it was COVID, there were still folks on campus, which was awesome. But we went virtual so we could engage with Max from a distance. And it was a great experience that, the class was talking about for the rest of the time, and it came up a lot in the final reviews and everything else. So Max, why don't you just talk a little bit about that, like kind of how we did that and what that experience was like from your perspective?
Yeah, totally. So basically what we did, and correct me if I miss anything here, is we did a couple of live builds for two different classes. The first one was we came up with, the idea is we come up with some startup ideas in the beginning, kind of like how I do my show. We have a startup idea in the beginning, or we come up with one, and then we build a very light MVP, a very light minimum viable product to just test the theory.
Yeah.
My two favorite versions of MVPs are, one, a landing page that pretends your product exists.
Yeah.
Right? So in the first class, I think we did one of the students came up with flavored milk. That was their idea.
That's right.
It was just kind of a joke idea.
Yeah, Mew, as I recall.
Yeah,
right.
I love it. I use that. I'm very proud of that landing page. I use it for every other class that I teach.
Nice.
So all it was a simple landing page that said, "We have flavored milk. It is in cinnamon, mint, and peanut flavors." Awesome. And I created some cute little graphics that go along with those flavors. I talked about the ingredients that are in this theoretical milk, and then I have a pre-buy or pre-order button down at the bottom, or a buy now button at the bottom, whichever.
Yeah.
It depends. And that buy now button links to a form, just an offsite form that says, "Hey, we're not ready yet. We're super glad you're interested. We're going to be shipping the milk soon. We need some information from you in order to tell you when the milk is ready," right? And that process, that little fake it, pretend it's real, and collect information from potential customers process is like my favorite thing in the world for getting students started.
Yeah. Because in a sense, you're doing an experiment to see if there's interest enough that there'd be demand for the product. And from the person who's clicking on it, they kind of feel like they're pre-ordering. So it gives you a real sense they were ready to spend money on this.
Exactly. Yeah. So if they click a buy now button or they click a pre-order button, they're fully expecting a credit card thing to pop up and for them to put in the information, and then it will come when it's ready, right? Like if you want people to click on that button thinking that they're going to buy it, right? Because if they do, then you essentially found a customer, right? That's proof that somebody is willing to buy your thing,
right?
Before you built anything at all. So a lot of the risk of entrepreneurship is taken out.
Yeah. Well, and I would think, it's like, I think a lot of the prevailing thinking is, well, you could do a survey and get that information, but that's not, someone who says, yeah, that sounds really interesting, I would buy that, is not the same as somebody clicking thinking they're about to enter their credit card, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So theoretical buy or a verbal agreement, like I would buy this, means very little compared to somebody's like trying to buy it right then and there, right?
Yeah.
It's the more realistic you can make the buying process seem, the more proof you have that somebody's going to buy something. Yeah, and surveys can work. I know entrepreneurs that have done it before. It's just very difficult to get accurate information. Asking people about something in theory because they don't know, right? Businesses know. Businesses usually behave rationally. If they save money and save time, they'll do it, right? Yeah. But an individual, if you're selling a product to an individual, they might just not like it or not like it at the moment, or they it's blue instead of red, or it's too costly or too cheap. Right. Like there's a billion different reasons why they might not want to buy it. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So walk through, just kind of describe, there were several kind of phases of how that played out in the classroom. I mean, first thing we did an interview a little bit like this, so everyone could hear a little bit about your background, some of the things you do. I actually kind of seeded the audience a little bit. For a couple weeks leading up to it, I included the summary of the live builds, like those 10 or 15 minute summaries you do as part of their required viewing. So they already had some familiarity, and then I announced that you were coming, and it was pretty interesting when I said EntrepreNerd's coming to class. People were like, "Oh, that's great!" So they already knew who you were.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll talk through so we had that interview, but then there were several things you did to kind of walk through, kind of just the phases that would be kind of interesting for folks to hear about.
Totally. Yeah. So the first one was we came up with an idea. We talked about different theories. Somebody came up with the flavored milk idea. It's a simple little e-commerce thing, right? It's just selling a product online.
Yeah.
Or a common business model. The product is difficult to build because you got to go through FDA approval and all this kind of stuff. But we could just test it right then and there with that landing page, right?
Yeah.
So we built the landing page, futzed around with it, made it look nice, connected a form to it, and we were done, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. In the next class, we came up with a different idea. It was a different class. We started from scratch again. Came up with a different idea, and I posed a murder mystery app. I think.
Yeah.
Just as a concept, and a lot of the students really liked that. And that's the second way to kind of prototype things, right? You can either fake it with a landing page, or if you have the capability to build it really quickly, go for it, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, I use a tool called Adalo. I love Adalo, Adalo.
Yeah.
It just lets you build apps like Wix lets you build websites, right?
Yeah.
You drag and drop, you move stuff around.
In fact, I think I saw you just did a kind of a no-code tool. I don't know if it was just you had a video that sort of described how you use Adalo. I noticed recently.
Yeah, I started making a little video series on different no-code tools because I have a list of 420 of them.
Nice.
So I might as well go through all of them and make videos. It's great content.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I use that tool. We spun up a couple. It just let me duplicate a couple little app pages that connect to each other. I created some buttons that we built it off of the concept of like Clue, right? Where it's like everybody's one character and you all kind of will like talk through different scenarios and figure out who the killer was, right? And the killer, of course, knows in the beginning which person, like if they're the killer.
I remember it was a little like Clue meets imposter kind of a thing. Everyone was saying, that was sus.
I love that. Actually, I have a story about Among Us a little bit later, just like a little imposter game.
Nice.
Yeah, so we just created a couple screens. It was just more of a story kind of app where everybody clicks through and is at says the story at the same point, and it gives like room for discussion and kind of just talking and sussing out each other. And we prototyped that. We created like 4 different characters at their own screens, their own backstories, or at least like a template where we would put a backstory.
Yeah.
And then we talked about how we would add screens and how we would add different sections of the murder mystery, and we could add different like versions. If there's only 3 people, here's a murder mystery story for you. If there's 4 people, here's a story for you. Yeah, we were able to prototype that pretty dang quickly on a really basic kind of wireframe level, but it functions. I could publish it on the App Store if I wanted to in a dollar. Once I finish those stories, the prototype is ready to go. Yeah,
that's excellent. What I thought was really interesting was you kind of crowdsourced the idea for both of them. I think the second one, like you said, you sort of seeded an idea, but both groups kind of came up with 6 or 8 ideas in just a couple of minutes. Then we just ran like a quick poll to see, which one got picked from a voting perspective. And then it was like you're right into it. So that was really a great way to kind of get them to pick the idea and actually work through the build together.
I rarely get the opportunity to do live builds. I've done it for a few student groups before. Student groups tend to be a little bit more flexible than classes. But yeah, like crowdsourcing an idea is it's just like the most fun thing. Like the goal for me is to build my audience on Twitch a bunch more. So at the beginning, like we can have a Monday stream, a Wednesday stream, and a Friday stream. And on the Monday stream, we just come up with dumb ideas and we end up like setting on something, right?
Yeah.
On Wednesday, we build the product, and on Friday, we do the marketing, right?
Nice.
I would love to do that at some point in the future, but it's going to take me a little bit of time to build the audience a little bit. But crowdsourcing ideas, always a great idea. If you have a group, you'd be shocked with what people come up with, and it ends up being really creative.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it was such a unique classroom experience. I know you shared with me a lot of times there's been like reluctance on the part of instructors to like do a live build in class, but in some ways that created a really unique opportunity for almost like just like it felt, I think, for the group like they were involved. They were actually part of the whole process because they're contributing along the way. So that was
the hope.
Yeah.
A lot of professors don't really like it. I pitched it to a lot of professors. I totally understand why they don't like it, right? Because it's unstructured. It's completely...
You never know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. Something might completely just blow up, but you'll still learn a bunch. Like, even if you fail something or even if something doesn't function, you'll still learn a bunch. Like, I like 80% of the stuff that I build on the show doesn't go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But, like, I still learn an enormous amount.
Yeah.
When I was just getting started building stuff, I tried to build like 7 things one summer, and all of them failed because I was trying to build 7 things at once. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I learned about all those different business models, how they function, like what happens there, how to build them if I need to. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's not standardized, so it's not for every kind of professor or director. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I've found students, especially undergrads, will have a sense that they need to study entrepreneurship for a couple years, and then they can go out and do it. And I think the feedback, what a lot of the reflection, the following class, students were like, "Wow, I never thought about like you could just go out and do this tomorrow or today or right now." I think seeing you just move through from one no code tool to another and actually creating something right from scratch in such a short period of time, I think it gave everybody a sense of like, hey, I don't have to like perfect my knowledge before I go and do. I can just learn while I'm in the process, and I think that that came across really well.
I'm glad. That's the goal. That's to learn with me is the entire kind of like goal of Entrepreneur, and every little bit of content that I create. I think the first thing that I ever built was like junior year in college for me. It was just a little newsletter. I made a little Wix site that I connected it to a Facebook group and a meetup group, and it was a newsletter on MailChimp that I just like talked about local internship opportunities because I knew a bunch of companies. I sent an email to all of them. Hey, if you have any internship opportunities, let me post them. hopefully I can find you interns. And
Yeah.
then I just walked around and like met my friends and talked to my friends like, hey, I have a newsletter, would you like to sign up? And they were like, sure. And I ended up meeting some people from different universities locally at different events, and they were like, we would love to sign up. And it ended up being this really productive little thing. But just building that, I built it in a weekend. It was just one weekend, and that was while I had like classes and everything else, and weird kind of bad social environment. I didn't have a lot of time that weekend, but I was still able to like construct this thing. And it blew my mind apart. I was so I immediately thought, like, after you build your first little thing, your brain explodes with possibilities, because you suddenly realize, like, that was so easy. There's a billion different ways that I could like learn how to do that better, and let's go build stuff, right? So,
Well, and I think the other thing is just that a lot of these tools are free. If they cost anything at all, it's very little, but in most cases they're free if you use them in a certain way, right? So that's something I've seen, just I've started to apply it even in courses since the one where you were engaged with my classes, is, sending them out on an assignment, like go use Canva and create, a postcard, or go create a thumbnail for a YouTube video, or, just, using those tools as part of the learning process. And you're not, going back to your whole thing about the simulators, not having a situation where you have to figure out who's going to pay for a license to, Photoshop or Camtasia or something like that. It's like go use this free tool and create something. It's just an opportunity to learn. It just opens up a world of possibilities from a learning perspective.
Exactly. Yeah, the tool that I built my little listing website on today, totally free. The only thing that I paid for, just because I wanted to, was the domain name. It was like $30 a year. I paid for that because I wanted to brand it nicely. Everything else was completely free. The two other tools that I used in the show, there was no payment whatsoever. That's it's excellent. Amazing what you can build without.
That's excellent. Well, and it's funny, you hear the word bootstrapping used in entrepreneurship, but you also hear the word bootstrapping used in development, programming, computer programming. So they mean different things in different contexts, but they actually are similar in the sense of like getting the most learning or the most outcome you can with as little effort or cost as possible. And so weaving those two things together is a great thing for entrepreneurs that's just a fundamental skill, really.
I agree. Yeah, if you can like make it really quick, if you can like futz with it, even if it doesn't work, even if you get halfway there, you've now learned everything that you need to know to fully build the product, or you've gotten most of the way there anyway, right? Yeah. It's messing around is like the number one thing that I do, and that's how I've learned everything, right? It's either interviewing people, finding experts. It's a great way to learn stuff, but like just messing around and trying to make it happen, you learn everything you need to by doing that. Yeah,
it's like the art and science of tinkering.
Exactly. I love that. That's a great way to describe it. Tinkering.
That's excellent. So let's talk about the simulator. So tell me about kind of the backstory. Tell me about what you're doing with it, and tell us a little bit about the simulator.
Yeah, totally. So basically, I gave like a short little rundown, but I was in a class like 3 years ago in college, like junior year. I was taking a marketing class. I was very excited because I had tried running ads before. I had run Instagram ads. I tried it myself. I didn't like do any like online courses or anything like that. I was messing around. My friend told me this is how they grow on Instagram. They run Instagram ads, and I was like, that's so cool. I went. I tried it. I spent like a few $100 just experimenting, and it was like $100 for like a summer just experimenting, and I was able to get a bunch of Instagram followers by doing it the right ways. Amazing learning experience for me. Like that, like opened my mind to how marketing kind of functions. Just by messing around on my own. I then went into my marketing class, and it was a digital marketing class, very specifically digital marketing. Right? This is you run ads, you SEO, like all this like very specific stuff. I honestly learned nothing from that class, because everything that I had futzed with, I was open to like a few more possibilities, and it was a great class, and I totally like a lot of the students there like learned a lot of great stuff. But me futzing with Instagram ads like taught me more and gave me a much bigger like playground to kind of mess around than the class did, and that was a little bit frustrating for me. My YouTube ad, there was like 10 teams. My YouTube ad with my partner in class, it was a couple of students, we all were given like $50 or $60. We weren't given it, we had to pay for it initially, and then the professor had to pay for it like out of pocket, I think, initially, and then they would get reimbursement, and there was this whole big annoying process. So it took like a month before we were able to actually run the ads as an assignment, when we needed to run it a month earlier to fit with the curriculum, just because reimbursement was way harder than the professor thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Then, and all the other 9, like the other 9 teams did fine. Their YouTube ads went beautifully, right? Ours, for some reason, wouldn't get approved. YouTube just like forgot to approve ours, or something dumb happened. But like after like 3 days, it usually only takes a few hours. After like 3 days, our ad still wasn't approved, and we need to write a report on this thing, right? So I ended up like working with the professor, like, can I just run an Instagram ad to connect it to like a YouTube account or something like that? And they were like, fine.
Yeah.
It was just a crap show. Like it was ridiculous. And like the students learned just as much as they would have like running just something like a free version of that, right?
Yeah.
They didn't need to pay anything. All that kind of recently, I was talking to a professor. I was teaching marketing. I talked about this problem, and another professor, I can't remember who it was. I keep trying to look back at my calendar and figure out who it was.
Yeah.
They were like, "Hey, what if you just create a simulation?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a great idea." They're like, "You can have it."
Yeah.
I was like, "Cool." So since then, I've taken it from a simulation to a little bit more of a niche kind of thing where it solves different problems. So reimbursement is one problem, saving money for the actual university is another, and then like possible issues with online ad like creation platforms like not getting approved, anything like that. I've worked out a little bit of the nitty gritty since then on the show. But then I talked to you about the idea because it was just sitting in the back of my head for a while, and you're like, I'll test it. And I was like, great, and now I'm just going to build it, right?
Yeah.
So as long as I have a demo that I can experiment with it, that's all I need to get like product validation on if this works, if this solves the problem.
Yeah. Well, and what I think is pretty interesting about it is, I mean, if it really works well and it does create that simulated situation, this could go way beyond marketing and entrepreneurship courses in the academic setting. I mean, anyone who is trying to figure out how to spend their advertising dollars in the most efficient way, that's trying to drive a social media presence, like this could be a great way to like get familiar with it before they actually have to put money out into the world and and learn through the school of hard knocks. So I think, yeah. So I love it.
I agree. I'm really glad you like it. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting because I'm gonna have to populate it with dummy data. There's a few little like things that I still need to solve, but I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to work beautifully. I'm super comfortable with the setup. Like the format is just what I'm trying to get students comfortable with. Just creating a campaign, creating an ad set, uploading an ad, creating their own ad on something like Canva, right?
Yeah.
Uploading it, and then just like waiting for the data to roll in, and then they interpret that data. That's all they need to know how to do.
Yeah.
Everything else, once you actually put it out there, like I've talked to like top people. I worked as an intern under like a really top guy in marketing. He was like the chief marketing officer at this big it was like this big paid marketing company.
Yeah.
Like they created a tool to help with paid marketing, so of course their marketing officer is going to be amazing, right? In terms of SEO, Google ads, paid ads, like Instagram stuff, like all this different stuff that we were working with, I was like, so what do we do? Like, how do we start with this paid ad stuff? And he was like, all right, well, let's just start testing. Like that was his entire, like it's not like he knew because he had done a ton of paid ads, like how this is going to work. He was like, we just have to get a bunch of stuff out there and see what happens. Is the entire process of marketing, especially PPC.
Yeah.
Trying a bunch of stuff, seeing what works. The second something works, you double down on it.
Right.
But like just getting comfortable with that format gets you, as long as you're comfortable with it, you're not figuring it out. It's just testing from there on. So it's not hard for anybody to pick up.
Yeah. Well, and imagine if that entire marketing staff, worked with the simulator for a few weeks or even a couple of days and just got, it's like a video game, right? You sort of learn like what levers you have to pull and what happens. At least the mechanics of it would start to be more just something they were more knowledgeable about, and then be able to apply that as they are running like an A/B test or trying different things. Have a better sense for what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's the only goal, just to help kids get comfortable with it. Because that's all we did in my class, at least in my digital marketing class. That's all we learned. It was just to get comfortable with the format of the ad, right? And then interpret the data based off of that. But you could do that with dummy data. The only thing that's missing is just running that ad, and you can simulate that, no problem. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I can talk about it all day. I have to get it in the hands of professors. I have to see what happens. I have to make sure that this actually functions. And if it's a big enough problem for the university, we'll see if I can get paid at all.
Nice.
Regardless if it doesn't work, it's going to be a free product. I'm going to try to get it in schools. It'll be a really cool project regardless. But hopefully we can make it a paid thing.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to getting it in my hands so I can do a review and share my experiences with it. Anyone who's listened to my channel much knows I love simulators. I think they're a great way. I mean, it's still second best to if you can create like a real life experience. That's always going to be my first choice. Like I love the way you talked about just getting on Instagram and spending $100 doing ads, and you learn more doing that than anything else. But simulators are like that next best thing where you can kind of have that experience, but at the same time not be, not have to spend the money or what have you. So it's I think that's great. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. Yeah.
I'm super excited that you're down to test it. That was the trigger for me to go and build it because I need like that first user if I'm going to be, because I had no idea if I could even get it into a university, and then it's just sitting there, right?
Yeah.
It was a large enough product that I needed somebody to help me, help motivate me. So I super appreciate that you're down to test it. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited.
Excellent. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. So, I mean, maybe this is a message for anyone in higher ed that's listening to this. My experience, just engaging Max with my classroom, and now we're doing the simulation. Like, just such a cool experiential approach to learning. Max, what are some of the? I mean, what are the range of like ways you could engage with someone who is building a class or teaching a class, or what are some of the ways that you might do that?
Yeah, totally. So I speak at a lot of universities. I have a lot of fun doing that. I love doing live builds. That's like a wonderful thing for me. It's just a lot of fun. It's very organic, and the students tend to be engaged.
Yeah.
So if the opportunity arises, love giving. It's like in a lecture format. I come into a Zoom room and I just do it. I'm hoping to do it in person. And once things open back up, I bring my laptop in, we share the screen, and we just go for it.
Nice.
Love that.
Yeah.
So that's great. And then typically the more common thing that I do is lectures. I just come in, I talk about something like code prototyping. Here's how you can build awesome products online for cheap or for free to get started with your startup idea, right? Here's how to do that landing page method that I kind of did the live build on. So here's how to build a landing page, the tools that you need, here's what it means, and here's how you can start going out and marketing it and testing it in the real world, right? To get feedback on your idea before you build anything at all. Another one is just like typical marketing. I talk about how to do PPC, how SEO works, just the basics of marketing for students. That's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Those are my typical kind of lectures. Given someone like PR or whatever, I'm pretty flexible when it comes to early entrepreneurship topics.
Yeah.
And then, so lectures, live builds, and then sometimes workshops, like larger scale. Bring me in for 4 hours, and I teach your kids how to, by the end, they have a landing page, every single one of them, and they're all ready to start testing their startup idea. Or they have a marketing campaign running on a few different things. They've written an article, they're running some paid ads, or they have a prototype of their product by the end of it, right? Something a little bit more tangible at the end, workshop, hardcore, build some stuff.
Yeah.
Those are a little bit rarer, but I do those for fun. Yeah, those are really nice.
Awesome. And coming soon, simulators as well. So
if this works out, even if this gets into a few universities, I could build 5 more of these things for different topics. That would be so much fun.
Yeah.
So,
Well, what I think is interesting about it, because I use a lot of simulators and work. A lot of the simulators out there are just very general, just entrepreneurship, like start a business or grow a business. What I like about this one, and I've seen another one recently, it's getting more focused on something specific, and like you said, like SEO would be another example, or like the ads, like buying online, social ads or what kind of thing, those kinds of things. Like it's a real specific skill set that someone can practice and hone and get good at through use of the simulator. So I like that it's not just a broad general simulation; it's something more specific.
Yeah, that's it would be for definitely very niche little topics. I'd build a few different ones for different marketing versions. PPC is the starting one, that's easy. I'd probably building a simulation for, or a bit of curriculum for entrepreneurship.
Nice.
Would not be super hard, because it's just teach them how to build a landing page, right? I could automate that. I don't know, I have a ton of ideas, very excited about it, but first I gotta make sure that universities will even take this kind of stuff, so we'll see.
Well, it's following the entrepreneurial process. It's great.
Yeah. Test.
So I guess first thing, educators, professors interested in getting in touch with you, what are the best ways for them to connect with you?
Yeah, super good question. I appreciate you allowing me to talk about this. Email works really nicely. If you look up Max, Maxmiro, Max Mihro on LinkedIn, I'm pretty like available there. Yeah. My email is maxmiro@gmail.com,
Nice.
maxmiro@gmail.com. I'm pretty easy to reach there. And my little website is EntrepreNerd, spelled exactly how you think you would type it out. If you try it, you'll figure it out.
Right.
.blog.
Okay.
And if you look up Entrepreneur on Google, you should find me. But yeah,
Nice.
I'd love to hear from you. If there's any educators listening that this might be useful for, I'd love speaking in classes. So
Awesome.
It'll be a lot of fun. Yeah.
And then some of your other, like, you got like Twitch, YouTube. What are some of the things, if anybody wants to just see what you're tune in and see what you're working on? What are the best channels for that?
Yeah, totally. Twitch is probably the best place to reach me. Instagram and TikTok and a couple of other places, I've started making a lot more content there. But my live streams, where I do my cool stuff, if you go to YouTube and you look up Entrepreneur, you'll probably find me. And then twitch.tv/entre_nerd
Nice.
is where my live stream is. And that's the best place to engage with the live stream. It's the nicest live stream platform, I think. Better than YouTube. YouTube has like a 20-second delay. Twitch has like a 3-second delay. It's really nice. So yeah, Twitch is probably the best place if you want to come hang out and help me build some cool stuff. But yeah.
Awesome. And live builds every week, right?
Yep. Or iterations on live builds. This next week, because I'll get to the point eventually where I'm doing one startup every single week.
Yeah.
I was there for a little while, but I don't have the time to market it on the show, right? It's usually just like 90 minutes to build it. I want to eventually do more live streams per week so we can fully build something. Next week, we built something this week. That was a full prototype. Next week, we're going to launch it on Product Hunt on a few different places on the internet, see if we can get some users. But yeah, usually live builds every other week, or like, 2-part kind of prototype creations right now, I think is probably a better way to describe it. But
nice.
Soon.
And live events are always on Wednesdays, is that right?
Wednesdays from noon to 1:30 Eastern time. And then on Saturdays, we goof off. We play business video games, like weird business associated little RPGs that we can find. And we talk about the startup ideas, and then we goof off.
Awesome.
And that's 6:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, just for a more casual kind of hangout.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, good. Max, thanks for being here. Really appreciate the time, and love hearing about some of the things you're doing. And, looking forward to working with you more in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. This is one of the best podcast conversations I've had in a long, long time. So I super appreciate this. Yeah, I love talking about this stuff.
Awesome. For those of you who are watching, thanks for joining today, and let's keep going.